Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Udo Dirkschneider, My Way, on April 22nd on Atomic Fire Records. The album has 17 tracks, 65 minutes in length, and this is his 18th full-length studio album. He's an iconic German heavy metal singer. Now this is an interesting album, and when you look at the title, My Way, I think that's the pure definition of who Udo is. He does everything his own way. And why would celebrating your 70th birthday be any different? That's exactly what this record is. This record is a celebration of his life, a celebration of his career. When you look at these 17 songs, it's all covers records, a compilation album. You see the bands, you see the music that really has had an impact on him as a musician and an impact on him as a person. So when you look at this album, you have to look beyond the music and perhaps look at it as a biography, a way for him to tell you more about himself, but letting the music that shaped who he is tell the story. That's how you have to look at this record. That's how you have to approach it. Now, having said all of that, the album has a nice flow to it and has a nice construction. There's a sense of beginning, there's a sense of middle, and there's a sense of end. So while he's putting these songs together, while he's defining the path that he's taken, he was still conscious enough to think about how am I going to make this album work as an album and not just put it together and have a compilation of tracks kind of find their own way through it. So I like the design behind the record because it allows the record to feel more like an album and less like a compilation. It's a little bit long on the tooth. It's a little bit perhaps too much to digest. 65 minutes, 17 songs is quite a bit. But this is Udo. He does things his way. This is his birthday record. Let him have it. I'm going to give it a complete pass on this, and I'm not even going to say that it diminishes the quality of the record, because if you're into covers and if you're into Udo Dirkschneider, it doesn't really matter how long this album is. You're just going to play it and you're going to enjoy it. And that's exactly what I did the moment that I sat down with it. Now, as far as the sound is concerned, I like the fact that the experience on this record, sound-wise, is very balanced, is very cohesive from start to finish. It's not like he took each and every single song and modified them to what they were originally. No, he has his sound, he has his approach, he has his own way of making music, and he just brought these songs into that machine that it is Udo Dirkschneider, and the outcome is the tracks on this record. So this allows songs that perhaps would feel completely out of place with one another, very different in terms of genres, in terms of sound, in terms of experience. I mean, you have songs here from Tina Turner to AC/DC to Queen and everything in between. So there's a lot of different movements, there's a lot of different characteristics at play on a record like this. But when he puts it through the meat grinder, when he puts it through the Udo Dirkschneider machine, he allows them all to come on the end, having a very similar sound, having a very similar output. And that binds the record. That gives it more of a sense of a uniform approach. It makes the record feel almost like one of his and not necessarily just a collection of covers. It has a positive impact on the playability, and it definitely has a positive impact on your overall enjoyment of this album. The sound on the record is also not very big. It's not very produced. It didn't feel over polished. It actually felt very gritty. It felt very rock and roll. It felt very heavy metal. It felt very warm from that perspective and very organic. And I like that aspect. It almost felt like they went with a first take on every single song, and they didn't try to overwork these tracks and perhaps take a little bit off of that drive, off of that experience that you would get with just going for it and playing a song that you really love from a band that you really respect. So this album has that more natural feel to it. It almost gives you a glimpse to what it would be like to be in a jam session of Udo Dirkschneider. So I like that perspective. I like the album having this grounded sound, having this more direct approach to its sound, and not really necessarily trying to create this arena heavy metal or this arena rock and roll experience, which I think would take some of the natural elements away from the album, and it would definitely have an impact on how you would perceive each and individual track and then the overall design of the record itself. Now, while you perhaps are coming into this album for the vocals, for the style, for the experience, I think you're also going to stay for the guitars. The guitars on this record are phenomenal. They're definitely one of the catalysts to the overall experience that the album has. Either be the solos, the riffs, the melodies. The guitar playing all around this album is over the top. It's off the charts, and I absolutely loved it, because with every single song I wanted to see what they were going to bring to the table. I wanted to see in what direction are they going to bring these songs. Perhaps easier to transform tracks that don't have a very heavy guitar presence, but I was also excited to see what they're going to do with some tracks that really have that backbone of a heavy guitar sound already in the original material. A song like Hellbent for Leather, for example. So I just was really interesting to see what the approach is going to be, and the approach was one that allowed the guitars to really shine, to be the motor, to be the catalyst, like I said, the gasoline, the fuel. What really drives this album forward musically is that guitar sound, is that guitar experience, and it is outstanding from start all the way to finish. As far as the vocals go, there are some surprises. You're going to get Udo in German on this record. I believe this is the first time he has sung in German. You're going to get it on this album. Once again, why not? He does things his own way, celebrating his 70th anniversary. Just go for it. And he went for it, and I felt it was very natural. It didn't feel out of place. It felt very organic. And the overall vocal performance on this record is really what you would come to expect from a Udo Dirkschneider record. There is grit, that is power, it's raw, it feels very direct, and it connects really well with the songs that he chose. And it's not like you get a one-size-fits-all approach. The vocals are very dynamic from start to finish. There's a lot of ebbs and flows. He uses his complete range, and he uses it well in order to give life to these songs, but perhaps more important, to put his own DNA, to put his own fingerprint on how these tracks come across and how these tracks are going to be perceived, not just from a covers perspective, but really allowing the all elements of these tracks to morph into something that you would perhaps recognize as just a regular Udo Dirkschneider track or an Udo Dirkschneider album. All around, this is a fun compilation to listen to. Like I said earlier on, perhaps a little bit too long, 65 minutes, it is pushing it as far as the short attention span of modern metal listeners, but it is his album, and I'm not even going to complain about it, because I just sat back, I pressed play, and I enjoyed the journey. I enjoyed the fact that the album had a sense of beginning, a sense of middle, and a sense of end. That allowed the 65 minutes to feel perhaps a little bit shortened, because it didn't feel like you kind of jumping from song to song. There was a sense of sequence, there was a sense of belonging, there was a sense of journey, if you will, a journey that starts in the first track and it doesn't end with the last. And like I said, that biography aspect that this album offers musically really keeps the listener connected, because you want to see what's coming around the corner. You want to see everything that has shaped this man's life, this man's career, and this album really represents it well across the entire span of his existence. So I really enjoy listening to this album, and that length, while being perhaps a little bit of a nuisance, it becomes minimized by the overall quality of the tracks and the overall quality of the album itself. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I picked 3 tracks that from the moment that I saw the track listing, these above all others had me really interested to see what the outcome was going to be. And I want to start with Painted Black, perhaps one of the most covered songs of all time, the original from the Rolling Stones. But this song, it seems like every band at some point in time has done a cover of Painted Black. I just wanted to see what Udo Dirkschneider Painted Black song would sounded like, and I wasn't disappointed. It had a lot of the original material in terms of some of the darkness that you feel in the original, but in this one it was a little bit grittier. It had a bigger sound as well. The track felt a lot bigger. It had a lot of different movements. The guitars felt a lot more powerful on this one. They dominate the track. They really change the way the song comes across. They expand the overall footprint of the track as well, giving it more movement, giving it more power, more intensity. It feels bigger, it feels more driven, and all of that comes from the guitar sound more so than any other element. The vocals control a lot of how you feel towards the song. The same could be said about the original. I always felt like a lot of the darkness in the original comes from the vocal tone, but perhaps a little bit more from the overall melody. On this cover was the other way around. I felt like the darkness was more driven by the vocal performance, not necessarily by the melody that the song had. But still, the darkness is there one way or another. A very interesting song, a very interesting cover, to say the least. Next, you have Hellbent for Leather, an original from Judas Priest. This one stays perhaps a little bit closer to the original than Painted Black. Painted Black, they took more freedom, more creative freedom in terms of how the song sounded, in terms of how the song was constructed. Hellbent for Leather felt to me a little bit closer to what I was expecting it to be. It still has a great vibe, it still has a great experience, the same that the original had. They kept it untouched as far as that goes. but it's a track that has that Udo Dirkschneider flavor to it. The guitars sound outstanding. That's something that I was looking forward to, because this is a guitar-driven song. It's a song that depends on guitars and vocals as far as the original goes. So I wanted to see what they would do here, and they were able to keep the interesting aspects of the original alive and well, but they also added their own elements to it in order to expand upon it, but not completely changing the experience and dynamics that the original track had. So I like how this song feels, I like how it sounds, but once again feels a lot closer to the original than Painted Black. Painted Black feels a little bit more departed from or evolved from it. Last but not least, We Will Rock You from Queen. I wasn't expecting to see a Queen cover on this release, and I was surprised that this was going to be the one, and I wanted to see what they would do with it. First of all, I like the intro. I like how the song builds up. It offers you a nice sense of walking into the song and not necessarily being just hit with it abruptly. So that is a nice aspect to this track. It has a great guitar sound. The guitar sound on this song is phenomenal. It definitely is one of the elements that will stay with you after you finish this track. The way that it comes across, the way it's played, the way that it drives the experience, almost feeling like the guitars were at 10, and when the track gets going, they turn it all the way to 11. It also has a great groovy bass line underneath it all. While it might not necessarily give an immediate impact in terms of how you perceive the song, the fact that it's there doesn't go unnoticed, and it adds a nice glue, it adds a nice foundation to everything else that's happening on this track. The backing vocals in the chorus are interesting because they make the song pop. They give it life, they give it energy, merging really well with Udo's own vocals and his own approach throughout the entire song. A vocal approach that also adds energy to the way the overall track feels, to the way the overall track moves. This is a song that's very dynamic, it's very fluid musically and vocally. The vocals really keep up with that same musical movement that the track has, which allows the song overall to feel very compact, very direct, very fluid, but also very dynamic, filled of energy and filled of life. This is it, Udo Dirkschneider with My Way, celebrating his 70th birthday, out April 22nd on Atomic Fire Records. Let me know your thoughts on the songs, on the singles, on Udo, on the covers, on the originals. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.